Just a moment. Okay. And I'm Nancy Orelli with Community Living Advocates. We are an organization that blends a senior care professionals organization and a chamber of commerce for senior care professionals and organizations. We provide an online directory of senior care services, events, and resources. We also provide professional networking events, senior fairs, and I wanted to invite you all to come to next month's Network and Education meeting on, July 21st at 2 p.m. We also this Friday have a coffee net in the morning, and next week there is another networking event for members. So with that, I think we had one more person join. Yes? No? Okay, then we will just go ahead and get started with our speakers if we can. First, I'm going to ask Janet Best to speak. She is the director of the Fayetteville Senior Center. And go ahead, Janet. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Like she said, I'm the director of the Fayetteville Senior Center. Have been for the last 5 years, but I've worked here for 15. I also am the cook as well. Currently, things have changed drastically here, let alone the fact that we're under construction and it's noisy. Both my employees that I do have been furloughed. So before COVID hit, our normal day would be filled with activities, with lunches, with people coming and going all day, from 10 a.m. to about 3 p.m., sometimes later. Since then, obviously we've closed. We've been closed since March 13th. And what's ended up happening is I have developed a phone line for people to connect with us 3 days a week from 11 to 2, those 3 days. And then the other days during the week, I'm now getting dinners together and providing dinners on Fridays. The dinners are a buy 2 for $10. They come with reheating instructions so that they have them for the weekends. At the very least, on Friday when they show up, we can kind of reconnect. If they don't feel like calling here, they usually kind of stay and chat from a distance inside the car. It's a great way to bring them back, to let them know that we're still thinking about them, that we're caring about them. My son, who I had to furlough, which, by the way, if you ever have to furlough a family member, that's not fun. So he comes back and he volunteers anyway. So he's been volunteering on Thursdays and Fridays to help me out with the meals. I've been serving about 86 meals every Friday. And it's quite a challenge to cook for that many people, 2 totally different meals every Friday. It's been very rewarding. And I think because we've had such a large response to it, we may actually continue it after everything gets sort of back to normal, however we manage to do that. We are a phase 4 place. So because a lot of things that we do are very close together, a lot of things are very close up, card games, eating meals, we are going to have to social distance. We're going to have to take temperatures before people come in. We have to provide all the PPE that they're going to need. It's a little more of a challenge here right now because we are under construction. The only good thing is that I'm not open during construction, so I don't have to worry about people tripping, falling, doing whatever they happen to be doing. It's definitely been very stressful for us because all this took place right in the middle of our annual appeal. Our annual appeal is our largest plea to the community in order to keep us going because we are a 501c3. Luckily, we have had some good benefactors come out of this that have never contributed here before. On the downside, people that normally would contribute are not participating in anything, whether it's financial or it's in-person events. It's hard for most of the seniors socially in order to to keep themselves being optimistic and mentally prepared for things that they're going to have to do when they can get out again. I've got a lot of their children that are literally marking their tires and not allowing them out of the house. And if they find their tires are marked, then I get a phone call, which I'm not sure why I'm involved in that. But it's been very tough on a lot of not-for-profits. I know that the Manlius Senior Center has also been having a lot of difficulties as well. And part of the reason why we decided to do the weekend meals was because the Manlius Senior Center has actually been furnishing meals during the week. And we figured that this would complement what they're doing so that, you know, they don't have to go out and shop. The meals that I give out on the weekends, they could easily feed themselves for 4 or 5 days. So it's something that we can do together that helps supplement something to keep them out of the stores, to keep them safer. And if they can't come get it, their children have been coming to get them for them. It's, like I said, it's a very changing type of thing. When we reopen, the amount of social distancing, I think, is going to be the hardest. They don't seem to understand what the social distancing means. With the guys I have working here now, even they don't seem to understand the whole social distancing thing. It's just been very tough all the way around on the staff as well as the members that we have here. And frankly, I'm getting ready to have things back to normal. It's very difficult not having that normal contact every day for us as well as for them. So, but that's what we're doing. We're just kind of trying to do what we're supposed to do, wait for every cue that we can from the government, the governor, the county executive, our mayor. Everything trickles down for us. So we have to do what the village, in essence, will tell us what to do. The village is doing what the county executive tells them what to do, and so on and so forth. So it's just a matter of waiting. It's a waiting game. And I think they're going to have to develop a trust. The seniors will have to develop a trust and know that we're not going to put them in harm's way. And that we'll watch out for them, because I don't think sometimes they're watching out for themselves, because they're lonely and they want to get out and they want to see their friends. And in the midst of all this, I've had 4 members die from COVID. And, you know, that's something that's going to have to be addressed when we open again, because these were pretty prominent members and they were involved in a lot of things here. And it's going to be upsetting to quite a few people. But that's my spiel for the week.
Someone had a question, thank you so much, of how much are the meals?
The meals are $10 for 2 meals, and you're going to get 2 full meals, which are very well rounded. You get a main course, you get either a vegetable or a salad, plus you get fresh fruit constantly, and then you get a dessert. Everything's homemade.
That's so nice. And what do you foresee happening in the future? I understand that you're phase 4, but what do you expect for the seniors? Do you think they'll come back? Do you think they'll be hesitant? What are your thoughts on, you know, when you do reopen?
I think some will be right on top of it and here right away. And then I think some of the others that their kids are in their ears will wait. And that's where I think there's going to have to be a trust issue between us, what we do, and how they receive it. I know one in particular, the children, well, the daughter-in-law is exceedingly paranoid about everything. They're the ones that are marking the tire. So I don't think they're going to let him out, and he does not understand it. He's 92. He does not understand. He's like, heck, I've already been through all this stuff. What's another one, you know? So it's a matter of just convincing the families that we are doing everything possible. And at some point in time, you have to trust people again, and you have to start trying to return to normal. If this doesn't go away altogether, we all have to learn how to live with it and do what we have to do to protect ourselves, which is part of our job in protecting them.
Right. So we have some other questions, and you guys can feel free to chime in if you want to. One of them is, are you offering any kind of online recreational programs or any kind of programs online? And how's it going?
Online, no. Most of our people don't even want to look at a computer. I'm still doing mailings every month. So online is not something that's easy. I couldn't even get them to do the Wii. And heck, even I like doing that. So it's very difficult to key them in. I wanted to do like a virtual bingo type of thing. And for some reason, a lot of my members don't want to give out any information over line. So I think there might be a little bit of hesitation because they think maybe of identity theft. I think I've done enough different community type things here to inform them about identity theft, but I think at that point then they become kind of paranoid with it. So
yeah,
so I'm not really doing that now.
What are the average age of your members?
I'd say 70s, early 80s. I have members as young as 50, and I have 2 members that are 100. So it's kind of hard to come up with different things to do with that big an age gap. It's like trying to find something that a kindergartner and a senior in high school
Right.
can do together, you know, and sometimes the personality is along that way too.
Have they given you any suggestions on what they would like?
Right now we're getting ready to start a trivia type of thing. So when they come in to pick up their dinners on Fridays, they're going to get a trivia sheet. And the first 3 trivia sheets I get mailed back to me win a gift certificate. So, so far that seems like the most popular thing to do. Eventually I want to do outdoor movies, which I think the outdoor movie thing will be good because they can bring their families to that. So I'm in the process of purchasing an outdoor movie kit so I can put it up in the parking lot, and then they can park at their cars, they can sit in the car, they can put a chair in front of the car, whatever they want to do, and I'll offer them some free popcorn, and it'll be a nice little evening for them. So we'll see how that works. I'm not quite sure how it's going to work, but we'll figure it out.
That's cool.
Now, you had a question?
I did. Janet, do they have to be a member or register for the meals?
They have to call in ahead of time so I know about how much I'm going to make. I usually have them call by Wednesday.
Okay.
Do get quite a few people calling Thursday night when I'm not here. So Friday morning, I got to make sure I check the routine. Otherwise, they show up and I'm like, oh, hello. So yeah, they do have to let me know so that way I can go and do my shopping and get everything I need. He's right at my window.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, goodness.
Melissa also asks, is there any way we can help support you in the center?
You know what? Just by letting people know that we're offering this is a great way to do it. They don't have to come pick it up themselves. They could send someone else to pick it up. Pickup is between 1 and 2 on Friday afternoons. Like I said, it's $10 for 2 complete meals. I do include reheating instructions, and they're very detailed so that they don't burn it, they don't overcook it, they don't do anything. It is pre-cooked, so everything is up to standard with the health codes and everything. And, you know, I mean, even if they want to stay in their car and eat out here, I do have a picnic table. They can social distance if they want to. They can maybe see what the color of the building is going to be on the outside. That would be nice. So, and there's some cute guys working out there digging it. So, you know, something for everybody.
That's so cute. All right, Judith is asking, how are your people doing in isolation? Are you noticing a decline, or are their families noticing it?
Some of the people are doing very well in isolation. Some of them are a little more computer savvy, so therefore they can still talk to their families via, via Zoom or Skype or Duo or whatever they're using. I do have a lot of people that are calling here on Monday mornings. The weekends, for some reason, seem to be the hardest for them. And you wouldn't think so, just because if they do have family that's nearby, they're usually not working on the weekends, but the weekends seem to be tough. So Monday morning when I come in, there's usually 3 or 4 messages on the machine for me to call back. They just want someone to listen. They complain, they're concerned. Some of them are scared. Some of them call about their friends that have had COVID. So yeah, I think for the most part, if they have family locally, the isolation doesn't seem to be quite as bad. But if they're in a place like either Maple Downs or someplace that people haven't been allowed to come into, even the living place here on Burdick, it's the same thing. People were not allowed to go in and see their parents. I think it has affected them. I know it's affected my mother. Luckily, my brother moved back in with her, which is another story. But it has really affected them. I think it's affected their psyche on being able to go back out into the community. My mother got back in the car to drive the other day, and she literally had a panic attack because she had been driving since March, and she hadn't been out. So it was like kind of trying to jumpstart, I have noticed a decline in several people. I have one person in particular that is a big concern for me right now. She is going through a big stage of paranoia. She did actually show up here the other day, and I let her in, which I wasn't really supposed to do, but she was beside herself. She was panicking, and I didn't want her to get back in the car and drive. So I let her come in. She stayed in one room, I stayed in the other, because she can't have anybody with a mask. She's extremely hard of hearing, and she needs to see your lips moving. So as long as we were far enough apart, I gave her a cup of tea, sat her down, and we yelled across the room. By the time she left here, she was calm enough. I was okay to let her get back in the car. But she has declined a great deal since we closed in March. And to be honest with her, she has 5 children. And I think her relationship with all 5 are completely strained now. And I don't think they really pay attention to her anymore. So, say.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's very sad. It's she's been having problems anyway, but this has really kicked it into full gear for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if anybody was sort of on the edge or, getting to, we see that here a lot, as you can imagine, at Maple Downs. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, part of it is the aging process, but some of it, this has really increased other things to a certain level that probably has kind of sped it along a little bit.
Yeah.
Janet?
Yeah.
This is Belinda Porter. I know this isn't her entire situation, but you mentioned part of her situation is the masks are causing a problem because she reads lips.
Yes.
I saw an article recently on some people who are sewing masks that have a clear piece in them.
Oh, really?
So the people who are communicating with lip readers.
Yes, I've seen those.
I will see if I can find that article. It was something I saw, on Channel 3 or one of the websites. If I can find a link to that article.
Yeah.
What's the best, is there an email address I can send that to you?
Yeah, you want my email address?
Yeah.
All right, here.
I know there's a woman in Fayetteville that makes them, and I can look it up and let you guys all know. she makes the, the mask with the clear shield. It's part
Right.
mask, I think part shield. So I'll look it up right now and I can let you know.
Right. Right.
Thank you.
Oh, great.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Bernadette,
please.
because I would just be trying to come across something I happen to see again. So if you've got specifics, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and feel free to put that in the chat so we all can
Okay.
see that.
Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yep, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah. Anything else for Jana, everybody? Well, I just wanted to say, I think
I was so thorough. Look at that.
I know. Well, I just wanted to say thank you because I really feel like it's really important to know what's actually going on with the seniors, and a lot of us haven't been able to see them or be around them much. So thank you so much for giving us the update. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah. Okay. Then next we're gonna have Judith come on up here and talk. Judith Huober is the director of the Syracuse Jewish Family Service and IMPARA, which is the Institute at Menorah Park for Applied Research on Aging. And if you can go ahead, Judith.
Thanks. Well, that's was a wonderful act to follow, Janet. I really appreciated hearing your notes from the trenches, because part of what I want to talk about is similar from the standpoint of senior housing and community-based services. So I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing, but I'm really interested to follow up a little bit on what your observations were. I'll have to be careful because I tend to climb onto a soapbox about this. Bottom line is we're seeing, Jewish Family Service is part of the Menorah Park Continuum, which goes from independent housing at the Oaks to assisted living at the Inn, the nursing home with the usual rehab, short-term, long-term, dementia care. We have some low-income housing on campus. We have a licensed home care agency on campus. We have a group home off campus, which has just got 4 women who live there. It's the only kosher group home upstate. Gosh, I hope I'm not forgetting. Oh, we have a medical adult day program on campus. So I keep saying campus. And what that means is, as of March 13th, everything shut down per order of the governor, right? It didn't matter where we were. We're in a nursing home or we're related to a nursing home. We were done shuttering our doors, like many of you. Unlike many of you, that continues. We're going to be the last ones to get to open. So even the community services that we brought people up to campus for, we had to stop doing that. I will tell you what we did start doing instead of what we stopped doing. At Jewish Family Service, we stepped forward to provide the liaison between people who were now imprisoned on campus, on their floors, in their rooms at various phases of this, to their families who, as you observed, Janet, are really off, completely separate. It's really a very different situation from somebody living in the community when they can kind of work around the quarantine to somebody who's really completely physically isolated. That's very hard on the senior, and it's very hard on the family. And we are seeing, I'm really interested in this, we're seeing a lot of very serious decline. We've actually done pretty well in terms of deaths. Well, we've had 10 COVID-related deaths on the whole campus, though. And so that's not bad, actually, in terms of the way a lot of other, obviously every time somebody dies, it's very, very difficult. We've had, I don't know the numbers, I should have figured that out. I think we've had about 25 people, residents affected, between 20 and 25. So that means the vast majority are surviving. They were severely ill, we've had a couple people who have had strokes associated with COVID. That's obviously a significant recovery to claw back from, right? But what I'm maybe more interested in talking about with you all who are dealing with people who are in the community is what about the people who didn't actually get the disease, who are living through the experience of being completely revolutionized in their style of life, quality of social life, etc. And we're seeing really significant decline. Obviously, the emotional piece is very difficult. A lot of people understand it. A lot of people really don't understand it. Or you tell them and they say, oh yeah, right, and then it's gone. Or they understand that there's a virus, but they really don't understand the connection between what they're living through and the virus. Family calls and FaceTime calls and Zoom calls are very confusing for them. They ask, many of them spend the majority of their time on the phone asking, why can't you come? Why haven't you been here? And the families are doing very well for the most part, just answering that. They got over the guilt part of it very quickly. At the beginning, they were saying, oh, I'm so sorry, Mom. I hope you don't think it's me. I hope you understand that I would be there if I could be there. Well, that was totally over their heads. They didn't understand at all. And the families, partly with our guidance, but they figured that out. Just have a nice visit and stop apologizing because they don't get it. But we've seen people who are, I wouldn't say clinically depressed necessarily. We're not making those diagnoses, but certainly depression and anxiety are very significant. But the thing that we see, we're a nursing facility. What we see is people don't eat. People aren't ambulating. People who are on independent or one-person assist are now on two-person assist. As one of the nurse managers put it, they're shutting down. They just are choosing to not bother anymore. And this is despite all of the additional time that our therapy and clinical staff are able to spend with them one-on-one or helping them connect with their families. The fact is it's not the same when you're in your room and you're not eating with other people and you're not doing activities with other people and you're not seeing the same faces and you don't have the same routines and your family isn't there fixing your drink and fixing your pillow and going to fetch this for you and finding out if the movie's on time and figuring out why the window won't open and all of those things that families do on a day-to-day basis to ease somebody's life. This is bearing a psycho-emotional toll, but it's bearing a functional toll that is just astounding to us to watch this happen. And it's getting better now as we're able to bring people out of their rooms. The worst of the quarantine is past and we're seeing people emerge. It's just so clear to us. I would love, Janet, if you would want for us as trained therapy providers, if your families wanted to talk to us in a group format or other and help them understand that this is not a choice between safety and a lack of safety. This is a choice also between living and shutting down and dying slowly or dying faster. And they are not choosing what they think they're choosing, which is safety and well-being. They are choosing something far, far, far less rosy than that. And
I agree.
it's a terrible choice, but let me give you an anecdote. Some of what we've been doing is this work in the nursing home and in the assisted living, but we've also been working a lot with families and a lot with people who are out and about. And we get a lot of calls that turn out to be about psychological or family dynamics kinds of issues. I got a call from somebody early on that she wanted to know if we could help her get a mask, which we can do. We can help people. At this point, that's not so critical, but early on, we had good access to PPE for people in the community who needed it. And this lady asked me for the mask, and then she told me why she needed it, which was that Passover was coming up, and her sister, who lives out of town, the one who lives out of town, right, had assigned her to be the one to go to Dad's house here and bring him the Passover Seder. And she was going to need a mask to do that. But the sister was requiring her to promise that she was going to do this in a way that Dad was going to be okay. Like, you have to promise that you're going to do it so well that you're going to promise me that Dad is going to be okay. And and this came out as a second part of the call. And I said, your sister's got you in a double bind. You can't promise that. There's no way you can promise that. The fact is the only way to keep your father completely safe from catching the virus is to leave him completely alone. And given that he needs at least groceries, that isn't an option. So let's start with, it's not black or white, and how much gray are you all willing to tolerate? And that you have to get along with your sister about how much gray you as a family can tolerate. So given that it's a risk for you to go to your father's, maybe it's still worth it to you. But don't let your sister make you promise to bring the meal and to not bring the meal at the same time. And she hadn't thought of it that way and found it very useful to talk this through, not just about what was safe for Dad and what her values were, but how she was going to get along with her sister. I said, you know, you're going to be around for a long time with your sister. And if she's blaming you for Dad dying because you weren't careful enough with what she told you to do, that's a problem, right? Let's see if we can't prevent that problem. And this was very useful to her. And it was an early insight for me that having people really think through what are the real issues is dicey, but very productive. And quality of life issues are becoming clearer and clearer how connected they are to actual survival. And watching these people fight back from strokes and from all of this isolation and from the depression, watching them fight back, the people who are fighting back are people who are being helped to be resilient. And that was the word in my mind when you were talking at the end, Janet, the people who had problems at the beginning, who have suffered the most. Those are the people who don't have resilience to start with. And big surprise, right? They're not going to weather an enormous challenge like this, as well as people who were in pretty good shape emotionally and in terms of psychological resilience, right? And physical resilience. But we can help people to do that. So I would encourage you all to reach out to us. We are very happy to talk with families one-on-one. We've enrolled with a couple families one-on-one. Traditionally, our care management works with the elder, but I'm the one who seems to get these assignments. I often work with the families, sometimes because the elder is actually out of town, sometimes because it's not a situation where the elder wants to be involved. But I had a lady call me who was trying to figure out, with 4 siblings, none of whom live in Syracuse, how they were going to weather and how they were going to bring Mom back from Florida, where she got caught in her winter residence and couldn't make it back north to her summer residence. This is a huge issue, and it's not just for right now, but it's for moving forward. Lots of decisions to be made about which sibling to go to, how to spend quarantine, where she was going to land and end up, and was she ever going to get back to Florida at all. So again, this was a tip of the iceberg situation that she called about one thing and she became a client, and working with her and her family to talk this through. And I would encourage you to send people our way. It's not a big financial commitment. It is a self-pay program, unfortunately. Healthcare does not cover this kind of thing, even though it has a significant impact on people's health. But very happy to work with anyone, and I'd be very happy to talk with any of you about doing some services for your population at large. Our counseling program continues. We have moved pretty seamlessly to telehealth, but we are pretty flexible with that. We always have done home visits. I think right now we're in a situation where people won't want us in their homes quite yet, but we will be able to continue those very shortly. We're going to start another program. We're piloting it over the summer. It's an outgrowth of our PEARLS program, which is our geriatric depression service, which is supported by the county so that it's free to people. It's coming out of the PEARLS collaborative that developed PEARLS out in Seattle, Washington, at the University of Washington. It's called Stay Connected, and somewhat irreverently, we're calling it PEARLS Light. It does not require a diagnosis of depression, which makes it appropriate for the many, many people who have been referred to us over the years who don't meet the criteria for depression. But it's based on telephone outreach, a very strict series of check-in questions and calls, then tied to what's called behavioral activation, which is one of the 3 interventions that PEARLS is based on, helping people empower themselves to do something. That by itself is useful. I am not a helpless victim. I am somebody who can act on my own behalf, who can make choices and figure out what I want to do and do it. And that by itself is huge in terms of building psychological and actual resilience. But it's also the reason why this isn't like 211's Telephone Connect program, which is a wonderful program. I don't know if you know about it, but I would recommend to anybody here, if you have a senior who's really just cut off and isolated, call 211. They have a program and they call people every day and check in with them. If that's what somebody needs, just we're glad you're alive. We're glad to hear your voice. Talk again tomorrow. It's a great program, and it's free. I would encourage anybody to use 211 for that. I wanted to let you know that we've just published word that our elder shelter, the region's first and probably only ever elder shelter, is being launched next month, we hope, right here on our campus. I think Lori's there. Yeah, Lori's still there. This is in collaboration largely with Vera House and its Elder Justice Coalition that it's been leading for many, many years. We have wonderful coalition partners, and we got an extremely generous grant from the Mother Cabrini Foundation to launch this. It's part of our Dementia Friendly Central New York project. And so I want you to know, there we go, thank you, Lori. It's related to the identity theft project that we have been participating with Lori and Vera House on, and other community partners. So this was the last critical need in the elder abuse network of safety and services, to have a physical place for somebody to go when they needed immediate housing alternatives because their situation was physically not acceptable. And so we're overcoming that last gap next month. And then the other thing I want to let you know, because I will be reaching out to many of you at some point, I think. We got another grant from the Health Foundation for Western and Central New York for a caregiver support program. And we are hoping that we will get lots of participants in the pilot project, which will be a 2-year pilot, which will start, we assume, in mid to late fall. And people will get some services out of it. And hopefully it's very focused. It's called Project Secure, which is supporting the experience of caregivers to upstate region elders. We're collaborating with a team in Erie County in Buffalo. And I'm hoping to demonstrate some ideas about successful services and hopefully delivering a lot of successful services. So I don't want to go any further. That was plenty.
Judith, I want to expound on that. I have referred to your Pearls program many times since it first came about, and it has been very helpful for different families. I am so sorry for all of you that do work in facilities right now. The pain that the people are going through with the isolation, and it's not just the person that's being cared for, it's for everybody. We actually started a Zoom support group every week. We started out doing 2 a week, and now we're down to 1 a week. We picked the most prominent times that made sense. And the people calling in are a mix. It's open to anybody, but the people calling in have families in homes and families in facilities. And some of these people are just as isolated at home because their families are too afraid to go. And, you know, it's really hard. Judith, you were talking about using, you know, electronics to engage, but people with dementia, it's really hard. They don't understand it, and it's confusing. So a lot of our support group, we are not psychological in nature, but we just give them an outlet to talk and then refer them, you know, for other help is needed. But some of the biggest things that have come up is, how can I connect with my mom? She doesn't understand why I can't come. I haven't seen her in 3 months and I can't see her. Yep. And this has been, it's breaking everyone's hearts. And there is no good answer, no easy answer. And I think the facilities have, you know, they're trying to do what they can to ease this burden, but there are some limitations. I have an employee who has her mom up on the 4th floor of Iroquois. She hasn't seen her mom in 2.5 months, and she's in end-stage Alzheimer's, and she can't communicate with her at all. So the aides will hold the phone so she can sing to her, because that's all she can do. And it's just sad. The whole situation is sad. And, you know, I think places are trying to figure out other ways to connect, and that's some of the things we talk. So, you know, we're happy. I'll put the information in chat. Anyone is welcome. Each week, we have some people who have come all the time. We have some others that are come once, or they're new, or just so that they know they're not alone. And your story about the one daughter putting that pressure, or the one person putting pressure on that daughter, you have to make it okay for dad, is just heartbreaking, because you can't have that. You can't put that guilt on people. Right. And no two people do things the same way, and there is no one answer. Just because it's different doesn't mean it's better. It's just different. And I think families have really come under fire trying to make things better, but they don't agree. So I'll put the support group up there, and anyone is welcome to attend, but we refer to your services often, Judith, anyways. And I think that's great, the Project Secure. I think that'll be a wonderful program, and I know you guys are good about getting that out. So,
thank you. Thank you. I would, you know, there's, I think it's great. I've seen your emails about the support group, and it's so important for people to know that they're not alone, and to hear some of the specifics about, oh yeah, that's what my mom does, or yeah, I tried that, and yeah, that's what happened with me too, and it isn't me, it's that, you know, this is limited, or whatever it is. It's very comforting. Please feel free for people who need more personalized support than that, either more information, more therapeutic jockeying, more specific work on family dynamics, because you know how that is, the family dynamics involved, and the different needs in the different parts of the family just not jiving with each other. That's not something you can sort out in a group meeting, right? And so our counseling or our solutions program, depending on how that is, are a good place for that, and we do have the capacity to go up. can take more.
Yeah, not done well in a group meeting, those particulars.
No, you kind of have to kind of define, this is not the right place, right?
Yes.
But here is.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So tell us more, Judith.
Gee, I was, what is, we've, it's so interesting to hear all of you, actually. Our Empower You program is something that maybe some of you know something about, the early memory loss, a learning community for early memory loss. We started with sort of a general holistic brain health. A year later, we opened a second section called Arts and Minds, which takes more of an arts and humanities avenue towards cognitive and emotional support and social support, obviously. We were poised to start a Parkinson's group when COVID hit. So that's kind of hanging there. We're not sure of all of the vulnerable populations when people with Parkinson's and chronic diseases like that are going to feel comfortable coming back physically to a communal location. So that one's on hold. But we've been sending out what we call MPU Online. Every week we pull together a digest of some of the types of activities that we traditionally do when we pull people together for a 4-hour session, and send them out. And a lot of them are funny, and a lot of them are artsy, and a lot of them are just puzzles. People send stuff in, they send in suggestions. We've had really good collaboration, even though these are people with early memory loss who often themselves are not online in any way. And one of the ways we've done that is by involving their kids. It's always been a program that was as much to help the families as it was to help the identified elder. And at a time like this, we found, yes, it's often the younger people who really need support and guidance because they're making decisions for a parent and they feel like they're completely like, who died and made me the parent, right? Like this isn't a place they feel really comfortable. Most people are not marking their parents' tires. Most people, in my experience, are really hesitant to take that kind of authority over their parents. They're just killing themselves over the risks. So anyway, the family members are sometimes now the ones who are literally in contact with us, but they're facilitating the connection with their elders. So we have one son, for example, who keeps taping his mom making a little video message, and then he sends us the MP3 and we send it out to everybody else. And it's adorable. And she absolutely knows who she's talking to, and her wishes and her missing us are completely her and completely genuine. And I mean, it's an up day for us when he sends us one of those, and we know it is when we send it out to everybody else. They feel like they're a little more together. We're proposing to pull people together for one outdoor 2-hour session within a couple weeks. Right? This is the time. God is giving us the weather. We're going to try and take advantage of it. And we also think that maybe this is as quiet as it's going to get before we get whacked again in August or September. So we want to make sure that we take advantage of bringing people together now. We're also talking about moving it off site for a little while because people don't feel comfortable coming to a nursing home where all these people are getting sick and dying. And we recognize that. It's a big barrier to overcome. Plus, if the governor shuts us down again, I mean, we're still shut down, but let's say we open up in a few weeks, we start MPU again, and then there's another lockdown. We can't afford that kind of complete interruption again. We just can't go through that again. So we're planning now for, okay, if we start up again, can we do it in a hybrid way? That means that if we can't be together physically, we're at least going to continue to do X, Y, and Z. The Stay Connected telephone outreach is part of what we're talking about. We've been calling every single member of MPU every week to have a conversation with them and with their family members And it's really been a lifeline for everybody. And that jives with what you were talking about, Janet. I don't see Janet anymore. Did she move? There you are. You moved. I'm doing the pointing thing again.
Where'd she go?
You were over there. It's like, oh, that's all right.
They're so used to communicating by the telephone as opposed to anything else that's could be the one normal thing during the day.
Yeah. And so we're looking into ways that we can conference call without the complications of a conference call, because most of our folks, you know how many numbers you have to dial to do a conference call. That's just not going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, it's confusing when you're on, like, who's that? What, right? We see that even on group FaceTime. A lot of the older adults hate it. Their families love it. They think it's great. Oh, we're all here. Their older adults are completely overwhelmed, cognitively overwhelmed by the logistics of that and understanding who's speaking and talking over each other, and the kids barreling, but they can't handle it. It's not productive for the targeted older adult.
I agree with that completely, because that's what we've been doing with my mother, and we all get on and she never says a word because she doesn't have any idea when it's her turn to talk.
Right. We actually compiled a little blog on helping families make the most of these calls, how to have a good televisit, and that helped a lot. And it's funny because you see people who just get it, right? They do it like they were born doing this, and then you see people who, no, they're still saying, "Tell me about lunch, Mom. How was it?" Big open-ended but specific questions, like, right. So Sheila, I bet you're helping people do a lot of this, right? How to stimulate a productive exchange with a person with dementia, right? That's not a problem that was invented by COVID, but it certainly has been exacerbated by it.
Yep.
Right?
Yes, Bernadette and I have spent a lot of time, in Kelly Parisi as well, who's not on today. We spent a lot of time working with families. They're just calling up because they just don't know what to do. Families that work with us, families that are random, just like you're getting the calls, Judith.
Yeah.
And we never hang up. We're gonna try and help them. That's why we're in it. People who are in care don't just hang up because they don't want to do business with you. It's more than that. So yeah, so we often help people and we don't even know it. And one got on her support, she goes, "I can't believe you talked to me for an hour 3 weeks ago. I didn't even remember her because I never saw her face. I remembered the story." But I think that's what we have to do right now, is try to support everybody. And it's not new, but it's new to some.
I agree with that, because I've gotten plenty of calls from people that are not members of the organization here. And, I've gotten to the point where they said, we didn't even know you existed, but we found the phone number and we thought we'd just call. And then you end up helping them with something that you didn't even know that you were going to do in the beginning.
Yeah. So much of the time when somebody says, "I can't do this thing," or "I can't get Mom to understand whatever," and you go inside of yourself, because you know what you know, you go, well, duh. Mom isn't ever going to understand that. So let's move on. What can you do with Mom, right?
That's right.
And sometimes the families have figured that out. We're preparing to do what, I guess I'm very irreverent. I'm calling these drive-by visits like drive-by shootings, but they're really called drive-up visits. We're hoping to have people be able to visit from their car, and the resident, we're on again, off again, on again, off again, because technically, don't tell anybody that we're talking about doing this, okay? We don't want to get in any trouble.
Yeah.
That being said, there's people who are talking about doing it who don't get it. loved one would get so upset seeing them in a car and refusing to get out of it.
Yep.
That is not the person this is going to be beneficial for.
Right.
And I've talked with several people who were like, that was like, oh. And then I've talked to several people who I feared I was going to get that response, and they knew it. They knew it already. They said, I don't want to get mom upset. I just don't think I could stand it, watching her be confused and not being able to get out of my car and go and hug her. And it's counterintuitive for us. We're always saying, well, it's something. Anything is better than nothing. Well, in this case, no. That anything is probably worse than nothing. It's actively harmful. And right, we're first do no harm. It gets people upset, and there's no point in going there if it's just going to get people upset. There might be a point for the family member just being able to lay eyes on mom or dad, but there's a way to do that so that the older adult isn't really actively engaged. So you have to consider everybody's needs, but you don't sacrifice the older adult's needs, and most families don't want to. It's very, very difficult. But you know what the hardest thing is? You probably know this. I don't know how much you think about it all the time, but we do here. The bottom line is, you can't jump out of your car and hug your mom because it puts my mom at risk. Right? That's why. Mm-hmm. And that's awful. Right? I might believe, you know what? My mom would rather die of COVID than not be able to have a hug from me. I know this. I know this for a fact. She dictated it. She didn't say COVID, but this is in her end of life plan, and this is clear. These are our values. Why can't I do this? Well, you can't do it, not because of you and your mom, because of her and her mom. And
I think that the senior adult doesn't understand that either. My mother doesn't understand why my sister and I have not gone to visit, but my brother is living there, so how come she can see him, but she can't see us? And I have a brand new grandson, so I'm not going down to see them because I don't want to expose anybody else, even though I'm fine. But my mother can't understand why she can't go and do this, not thinking, oh, well, you know, I could be exposing this person in connection with this person. It's not something that, it's almost like the dots cannot be connected.
They can't be. And, you know, with people with any kind of impairment, at the beginning you start saying, oh, I have to keep explaining this. But you, as it progresses, or even towards the beginning, what people around, the biggest mistake people make, right? You all know this. The biggest mistake is instinctively saying, well, I'm going to explain it, and then she's going to get it, and that will be okay for at least for a while. And the fact is she doesn't get it. Even at the moment, she doesn't get what we just said. So don't go with that, right? People tend to respond pretty well to, the governor said no. You know, the governor himself said no. They get that, right? It's an absolute. They don't know why, but they accept it. They don't have to understand it to believe it and to be able to hang on to it. And when you just say it in kind of an absolute way like that, no visitors. The governor said no. It's the virus. Giving somebody something very simple to hang their hat on. Oh, okay. And then it's familiar, and it gets through to people. Actually understanding the whys and wherefores, just don't go there. They're not going to get it.
Judith, this is Amanda at Park Rose Estates. I don't have my video on, but just off of what you were saying, that has been, I think, the hardest part of telling our seniors when they have a car here and they want to go to the store, and we've just highly encouraged, you know, they don't look at it as, oh, I could bring something back to this community. You know, we have a 97-year-old woman who said, I'm 97 years old, whatever if it kills me, if I go to Kinney Drugs and I pick up this virus. And it was the fact that, you know, she was not really understanding that, okay, so you're okay with it, but once you get it in this building, what about the people that aren't okay with it? What about the seniors that are still trying to stay safe? So I think that between that and the mask wearing has been extremely difficult to reiterate when you have two people talking to each other and they have their masks as a decoration on their chin, and you're just saying, please understand that you need to wear your mask to protect each other. I know you don't want to wear it, but to protect the man you're talking to, wear your mask. You know, it's getting out of our own, you know, selfish ways and saying, I'm wearing this mask because I want to protect everybody else. So I off of what you said about them saying, well, I don't care, and, you know, whatever, I want to see my mom, or the resident saying, I want to see my daughter. We have to look outside ourselves. All of us, you know, seniors, and then all of us working in the community have to say, this is so much bigger than what we want. You know, it's about protecting everybody around us.
And if you acknowledge that with a person, if you say, this is so hard, we are all struggling with this. I hate this damn virus. You know, however you need to say it, helping them express anger and pain is great. You do not need to mislead them into thinking, once you've expressed it, I'm going to fix it for you, right? No, right? Treat people like grown-ups. This sucks, and we're all in it together.
That's exactly how it's. And you know, eventually they get it after you say it enough times. I look right at them. I don't want to wear it either, but here we are.
That's right. They get that. They're grown-ups. They might have dementia, but they're grown-ups. They get that.
Right.
Amanda, this is Sheila Ostrom. I've been in your location recently, and I have to commend you on what you are doing activity-wise with your social distancing. I was very impressed of the activities that I have seen. So
thanks
kudos
so much
to you.
What are you doing? Tell us.
We really are, you know, trying to, actually, we just got the go-ahead from our company we can have more people than 10 in an activity as long as they're social distance. So we have had, you know, they just multiplied. Instead of doing one ladies' tea, she's done a ladies' tea for the first floor, then the second floor the next week, then the third floor the next week. And it's really worked out. And thank you, Sheila, because we're trying to tell them, you do not need to stay in your apartment. You do not have to stay in your apartment. Please come outside into the community. Please go walk around the building. You know, you are not quarantined, and knock on wood, you know, we have not had a case here, thank goodness. That obviously if we did, that would change. All of that, you know, being able to walk around would change, but we're just trying to, you know, stay positive and light, and people do sit in the little cul-de-sacs with each other and talk, and that's amazing. I mean, if they were in their own home, you don't have that. Here, you can constantly talk to somebody if you want to. So that's what we've been trying to harp on, is the benefits of being in a community, because right now, senior living is one of the safest places to be, and unfortunately, it just has such a bad, you know, reputation because of the spread of it. But if you look at the other side of it, it's a fantastic place for seniors to be that are not eating well and are isolated in their home. So, you know, we just, like I said, we just kind of go off of that. So.
Yeah, we've had no cases in our independent living, and we've had some group, we're doing more and more actually group activities, social distance with masks. And again, I'm sorry you have to wear the mask, and I hate it too, and here's another one because that one. Yeah, and it's good. And, you know, even in the nursing home, once we don't have to have people in their rooms, we've started doing like karaoke parties. So doing music, like they're used to having a TV on. They don't want to come back and look at the TV together, but we've been doing music, and everybody's sitting in their doorway with Frank Sinatra going. You know, and they're all around a quad, but they're together and they're all listening to the same thing and doing whatever they do, right? So things like that, it's possible to do. Thank God for Bluetooth speakers.
That's wonderful. Does anybody have any questions they wanted to ask anybody? No? Okay. Well, wanted to say thank you again to Judith and Janet. Thank you so much for speaking today and everyone who came. I thought it was great, and I hope you guys, have a good week, and maybe I'll see you Friday at the Coffee Nut or next week at the networking event, or maybe next month. So keep in touch, and I hope to see you guys soon again.
Nancy, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy.
As always, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, folks. Be well.
Bye.